I genuinely cannot believe that there are people out here right now saying that this Bitcoin ETF is not going to have an impact on Bitcoin price or Bitcoin adoption or whatever else. These people are mental midgets. It's as simple as that. They don't understand finance. They don't understand how the securitization process of an asset works. They don't understand anything as far as I'm concerned. The moment someone says, it's like when someone says, but Bitcoin is infinitely divisible because I can break it into small parts. I don't need to listen to you, moron, anymore. Like, you're just a moron. I don't need to listen to you. It's not my, one of the things that we've got really messed up in society right now is that we believe it is everyone else's job to educate us. We believe that it's everyone else's job to give us the information that we need. We believe it's everyone else's job to give us the leg up that we so desperately seek. And unfortunately, life doesn't work like that in the reality of things. Life doesn't work like that. So if you're sitting around and you're going, hey, this ETF is not going to make much of a difference, good luck. Good luck. That's why I don't, I've openly said it as many times as I can. My YouTube channel, everything I put out, is not for everyone. It's for the people who have made it. It's for the people who have sacrificed their life, put in the hard work, generated assets, and now need to understand that if they don't pivot those assets, it's not gonna turn out well as the assets like real estate, stocks, gold, etc., start growing at a much slower pace compared to the amount of money that's printed, not just the inflation figures that are printed. It's for people like my parents who've been doing this, sacrificing it for 35 years, only to find out that doing the right thing meant getting screwed over because their property price hasn't gone up or it needs to go up by more than 50% higher than where it is in order to break even on the amount of pounds that have been printed. So I don't care about I don't care about the mental midgets. I genuinely could care less about people who don't understand it, because we live in a society now where it's apparently your God-given right to receive everything I'm saying, and it's also your God-given right to question everything I'm saying. Guess what? It's absolutely your God-given right to question everything I'm saying, but it's not your God-given right to receive everything I'm saying, right? And so the beautiful thing about social media, it comes with its gift and its curse, where I can put this information out there for the people who want to hear it, and on the other side, you get the people who don't understand how anything works, have the ability to also question information. Now, I've never shied away from the point of saying that to a certain extent I am an elitist, but that's just how the world works. You can't hate me for it. I'm telling you exactly what it is. If you don't like it, you can watch someone else's YouTube channel. That's all cool. Now, here's the main thing I want to talk about before we go on to continue on this pointless rant about how dumb the world is. The main thing I want to point out, and again, why you should subscribe. If you are sitting there and you are fed up with how the world is working, you are fed up with all the information that's being blasted to you, you are fed up with all these other YouTube channels that are basically reading news to you, right? Reading news to you because they don't understand how markets actually work. They took Christmas off because their VCs basically stopped paying them, right? It's like that we need to move beyond this. There's some really cool people now coming out who have market experience, who have realized that it is worth talking about this, who don't need a sponsorship, who don't need a VC, who don't need any of that, and they're out here on Twitter, on YouTube, talking about their perspective on Bitcoin, which comes from the background of making money, investing assets, managing assets, etc., and that's really the valuable thing. All of these, how do you call it? Mental rent seekers, where they just read the news to you, basically. There's probably value for one of those channels. One I can think of that's actually valuable to my life. But the rest of them, I don't know. Like, it's like, cool. You might as well start a podcast. I don't know why you're reading the news to me. But anyway, subscribe, because this is the message that we need to send to the YouTube algorithm. We've got to spank the algorithm. Nothing works without being spanked. You got to spank the algorithm. You got to spank the mental midgets. You got to spank the $10 a month DCA gang. You got to spank the $1,000 net worthers, and you got to spank the doom and gloom boomers. How you do that is by hitting subscribe on the YouTube video. Now, Do you understand how terrifying this is going to be once this ETF launches? There's rumors out there. BlackRock has already lined up $2 billion of new capital to come into the ETF products from their investors. We're not talking about Fidelity. We're not talking about Grayscale's clients. We're not talking about VanEck's clients. We're not talking about Bitwise's clients. We're not talking about Galaxy's clients. We're not talking about anyone else's clients. Just BlackRock, $2 billion. $2 billion of new fresh capital coming in. This could be the single most successful as an overall ETF product launch that we've ever seen, right? There's obviously there's I think 11 of these guys competing on day one, right? So there's a couple things that I've been thinking about. Number one, if 11 are competing on day one, what happens to the unlock that happens on GBTC with the amount of capital that starts flying from GBTC? GBTC has to be worried about this because it could create some market instability and short-term volatility, because if a bunch of people want to sell their GBTC position, then they're going to basically face this situation where they're going to have to sell that Bitcoin into the open market before it's bought up by the other providers where the capital is flying to, right? That's the one element of cash creates that could cause some volatility in the market. It's cleaner, but it could cause some volatility in the markets. Whereas with an in-kind structure, you just basically withdraw your Bitcoin from Grayscale and send it over to BlackRock, and they'll put it into their structure. So, you know, there's different little things that are going to come up. But, you know, if BlackRock already has $2 billion ready to go, I was thinking, like, what do I think the first few days of, you know, GLD had a record of $1 billion in a few days. I was like, okay, so what do I think could happen? And I think we look at, I might be conservative here. I need to check myself. Maybe I'm becoming a bit too conservative. What's going on? Maybe I'm becoming a bit too fucking conservative. I need to have a conversation with myself, which I'm going to do after this video. Smoke a cigar and have a conversation with myself, see if I'm becoming way too conservative on this. But anyway, I was thinking about it, and I think that around $3.5 billion net will flow into the total Bitcoin ETFs within the first week. Right, and again, this is quite conservative thinking, considering GLD, which was launched in 2004, had $1 billion within those first few days. So I think this is quite conservative. The fact that BlackRock is rumored to have $2 billion of net capital inflows ready to go into their ETF product is terrifying. But if we just look at the total figure of $3.5 billion, what does that mean? That means that today's price of $44,000, which of course the whole $3.5 billion won't pay $44,000 because the price will start sliding upwards. You're looking at 80,000 Bitcoin disappearing off of the exchanges in the first week. Because remember, they can't go out and pre-buy. They got to wait for the mandate. They got to wait for the ETF structure. They got to wait for the capital to flow into the ETF structure, and then they got to go buy the Bitcoin and put it in cold storage. So you're looking at 80,000 Bitcoin gone, disappearing in the first week off of the exchanges, regardless of price, regardless of anything, because the ETFs just have to buy, right? This is before the FOMO kicks in. This is before the fact that retail realize, oh shit, Bitcoin price is going up. I'm not going to sell. I'm going to move my Bitcoin off the exchange because I'm not going to sell this, right? So you're looking at, before the HODL rate starts to go up, before any of this, you're looking at, 79,500 something Bitcoin being taken off the market in the first few days of an ETF launch. And what do you think that happens to the price? So based on the multiplier effect, I think that the price, we add another $350 billion to the Bitcoin market cap if my 3.5 is true. And I think we see a price of about $60,000 to $63,000 very, very quickly after the ETF launch. By the way, this is before the shorts can keep up. This is before the shorts start closing their shorts as the price starts moving up. So we may overshoot that $60,000 to $62,000 price level within the first few days of an ETF launch. This is terrifying, right? No one's ever seen anything like this, because here's the point. Let's say the American ETFs launch, right? People start trading and people start buying. The Bitcoin starts coming off the exchange. Everything's going nuts. America closes trading. What happens? You think Bitcoin just stops trading? It doesn't. You got Asia. Asia starts realizing, holy shit, this is going crazy. We better start buying over there. So this is the first time where you've got a completely uncontrolled asset that's going through the process of securitization, where the securitized form of it, i.e. the ETF, can't control the underlying form of it, and the underlying form of it has got, supply and demand dynamics like we never ever seen before. So this is getting kind of fun, right? It's getting kind of fun, and it's getting scary, and it's a lot of people are like, oh no, my bags are gonna pump. It's gonna be like, don't think like that. This is terrifying if this happens. If Bitcoin price within the first few days of an ETF launch jumps from 44,000 to 60,000, 65,000, the signals and the alarm bells that start sending around the world, we could be sitting at above $100,000 Bitcoin before the halving. Because, by the way, do you think BlackRock wants to get into a fund and then have it flop? Right? Do you think BlackRock wants to say, hey, we launched a Bitcoin fund, it did all right. Did all right. BlackRock has finally given its name to the most, speculative asset humanity has ever seen. You think they want to just sit there and go, when people call them, hey, what do you think of your Bitcoin ETF product launch that you worked so hard for and blessed the space with? And you think Larry Fink wants to go and say, they're all right? Of course not. He wants it to be the single most successful ETF product launch in the world. And guess what? So does everybody else. So does Fidelity. So does Grayscale. So does Van Eck. So does Galaxy. There's a reason why Galaxy is basically saying that they will have no fees on their ETF for the first 6 months. Think about that. They're doing that so that all of these companies, this is before the selling starts, this is before the private client meetings, this is before all that shit. Because what they want to do is they want to say, hey, we launched a Bitcoin ETF. It was the fastest growing Bitcoin ETF in terms of, dollars within the first few days. It also pushed the price of the asset up from 40,000 to 65,000. Do I have your attention? Do I have the attention of your capital at this point? All of this first week stuff is going to be marketing tools for BlackRock and for all of these other asset managers going into the future. So this is terrifying, right? You're talking about 80,000 Bitcoin gone from the market within the first few days. And that's before all the marketing starts. That's before everything else starts. So yeah, it's about to get crazy from what I can see. But my prediction is I think $3.5 billion net inflows into those funds within the first few days of launch. But despite all of that, there's still only ever 3 rules to Bitcoin. And I want you to take this weekend, take a breather, because it could get crazy next week, right? So take a breather, but don't ever forget that there's only 3 rules to Bitcoin. Step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, shut the fuck up. And step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy.